Hello and welcome to the Business of Hearing podcast. Now, I have a question for you. If you could only do one thing to drive new patients, what would it be? Would you double down on physician marketing? Would you send more mailers? Would you pump money into Facebook ads? Would you rebuild your website? Would you have to rank number one on Google? Well, the truth is, the most effective thing that anybody in this industry can do to drive more patient opportunities is to drive more referrals from existing patients. Now, I can hear you. You do this already. Everybody does this already. Everybody asks patients if they know anybody that would benefit. Everybody says they do such a good job that they get referrals. And I don't question that. The question is, how well do you do this? Do you have a methodical, well oiled process? Does every provider in your team know exactly when to introduce the conversation, how to say it, what to do? And for many, the answer is probably no, or at least there's room for improvement. And today's guest is Dr. Tracy Board from Audicles Hearing Services out in San Antonio, Texas. And they've somewhat perfected this process, so much so that 80% of all their new patients now come from existing patient referrals. This gives them a luxury that running mailers and doing marketing and having to rank number one on Google is a luxury and not a necessity. They have the backbone of their business there. They can be somewhat choosy about who they work with, as we'll discuss in this episode. And it gives them so much freedom knowing that this number of consistent patients is coming through the door every single month, which gives them real foundations to grow their business as they have done for over 70 years, as we'll learn in this episode. So I think you're going to enjoy this one. We're going to really double down on this referral piece. Tracy is going to share the real kind of nooks and crannies of how they do this, how they introduce it, and her advice to you if you were to implement the same program in your business. I think you're going to enjoy this one. So let's get stuck in.
Welcome to the Business of Hearing podcast, the podcast for high-performing hearing care clinics that want to learn the strategies, ideas, and truths behind some of the smartest private practice clinics in the world. Now, time for your hosts, Phil M. Jones and Ollie Luke.
So I'm with Dr. Tracy Board from Audicles Hearing Services out in the beautiful, probably my favorite part of the US, San Antonio, Texas. And sorry, Tracy, before we jump into the good stuff, I was on Airbnb the other night looking at properties in San Antonio, debating whether to have a 90-day spell in the US at some point when it's safe to do so.
We would love that so much. We would love it.
Yeah, I bet you would. I'd be in your office all the time. You'd be like the best marketed business in the US. It'd be amazing.
Well, let me just put a little plug in for San Antonio. If you're going to come in the spring or the fall when the weather's the best. This is a beautiful time. And in March and April, you cannot beat South Texas. So we're ready for you.
Well, there we go. That could be perfect timing. So we've kind of jumped the gun slightly there, but how are you doing?
We're doing great. We're getting back into the swing of things, the way our business is used to running following all the chaos of COVID, and hoping that moving forward, we don't have to come to a screeching halt ever again. But I think we're feeling really good right now. Our business is chugging along. We're able to take care of people, and we're real happy right now.
Good. Well, I suppose the best starting point is for people who don't know who you are, what's your story? How did you get to where you are today?
So I personally came to work at Audicles 16 years ago, but that's not the full story of Audicles. Audicles was actually started in 1944 by a hearing aid dispenser named Arthur Small, and he was quite successful. His wife joined in running the company. And then his daughter, actually, who was a teacher, saw that as the business was moving forward and her dad was aging, someone would have to take over. So Carol left teaching to become a hearing aid dispenser and ran the business for a number of years. And after a little while, there were a lot of restrictions about what a hearing aid dispenser versus an audiologist could do within their company. So she brought on Jane Watson, who was an audiologist at an area hospital. And Jane was an audiologist while Carol was a hearing aid dispenser, and they ran the business as partners for many, many years until Jane took over. And Jane was the sole owner of our company for the past, I believe, 13 years. She's actually been here for 39 years. But in this past December, after being here 16 years, I bought the company on December 10th. And then on March 24th, I closed the office for 6 weeks due to COVID. So I have kind of had trial by fire here, and we've come through it. And we have a really great company. We have 2 full-time audiologists, 1 part-time audiologist, and 3 front office staff who've been serving San Antonio, like I said, since 1944. So we have some really fantastic, loyal clients. We've actually had the joy of treating several generations of the same family at this point, and we continue to, which is a really nice thing. So we've kind of absorbed these people into our lives like they were family, and we all seem to be loving our lives right now and our clients and our jobs. So that's where we are.
Amazing. And that, I suppose, almost leads me on to one thing that Audicles do that is almost world class is the relationship you guys have with patients. And I don't mean that you guys are friendly and patients like you. It's like the level of engagement in everything you do is high. If you ask patients to do something, they'll crawl over broken glass to do it, even if it's to leave a review or send a picture of themselves doing something fun. If you run a campaign, the engagement level is incredibly high. And, you know, from the outside world, people can look in and go, you guys are lucky, or I don't know why it works so well for you, but doesn't work for me. And these things rarely happen by accident. I'm wondering, what do you think are some of the key reasons why patients feel so connected and emotionally invested in you guys?
Well, thank you. First of all, we kind of feel the same way. And there are days when I think, holy moly, we are the luckiest group of audiologists I've ever seen to have such loyal and wonderful clients. I think it really reflects on the fact that each of us loves what we do. And we have this need to treat everyone we encounter as if they were our family member. I've had this conversation with everyone in this office at several different points, that when I see an 85-year-old woman walk through my door, I just have a need to treat her like my grandmother or a family member. And how would I want someone to handle my family member? What kind of care and compassion would I expect to be given, or for my family member to be given from a professional? And that just automatically shows up in our work, I feel like. Our job is not done until our clients are hearing and they're happy and they're kind of blown away that an experience like moving into hearing aids can be not only, easy, but it can be a really joyful experience. And we can share in that joy. The fact that this child is able to sit in a classroom and not struggle to hear the teacher, or, a grandfather is able to hold their grandchild and have a conversation with them for the first time, or a couple who's been married for 60 years, all of a sudden can hear each other again and have a real conversation. Those things, we feel them ourselves. And I think there's no way to have a relationship with your clients unless you're willing to put yourself out there and just allow that relationship to happen. So many people are so concerned with the day-to-day of keeping my schedule the way it needs to look, or I have to make X number of dollars. And I don't think that we run the company that way. I feel like if a client is sitting in my waiting room and waiting for 20 minutes, they know that they're sitting and waiting for 20 minutes because I am taking care of another client, and that's how much time they need. And they know that they're going to get the same time and respect from me that that client's getting. So it's really a culture more than anything else. We've built a culture here that took a long time to build, and we're not willing to give it up. And that's what our patients appreciate about us.
Nice. I want to dive in on that. So you've definitely built a culture. Is there instances, and I assume there is, where a new patient comes through and they're instantly not a right culture fit, or not a right patient, or if they had to wait 20 minutes, they'd be sat there fuming? Have you had to deal with those situations, and how do you deal with them if so?
Well, of course we deal with those situations. In fact, we had one of those situations within the past 2 days, and it's okay. It's human nature, and no one wants their time to be abused. Nobody wants to wait. I think that everybody moves into a new appointment with a new professional with certain expectations, and we all want to meet those expectations. But at the same time, we've made a commitment to our clients, and we're going to meet that commitment in every way that we can. If a new person does come in and gets really upset, we have some really phenomenal ladies working in the front office to hopefully explain to them, what the situation is, why they're having to wait, and, accommodate them in other ways if that is necessary. If they need to see one of the other audiologists because I'm running behind, they'll make that happen. Or they'll just explain, I'm really, really sorry. Tracy's working with someone who needs a little extra attention today. She's definitely going to spend as much time as necessary with you. It's just kind of a constant communication thing. There's always going to be somebody who isn't a good fit for the office, and that's okay. I'm willing to give them whatever resources they need. And if they're not ready for that, at least I know I've done everything I can to educate that client and, hopefully give them a good start in the process of moving into better hearing. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And I think that's unique because most businesses in any industry, they'll take any kind of sale that they can take, even if they know it's not a right fit. Us, like we've worked with, over 50 different hearing care clinics across the US. There's sometimes like within the first week where you go, this isn't going to be a good fit. The red flags have been waved, and then you've got to make the decisions. Many people just end up taking the money and dealing with it and knowing it's not going to be a good fit, and maybe will go wrong long term. But I think it's rare and has high levels of integrity to do it the way that you guys do it, which is to say, here's how we do it. This is our culture. If you're right for our culture, we'll treat you better than you could ever be treated. If you're not the right fit, then it was nice to meet you. Here's our recommendations, and have a nice life. It's interesting.
I like the way that you said that. And I'll be honest, there have been people who we have even refused to work with. There's really two things that you can do to get yourself counted out at this office. Number one is you can be rude to the front office and come back to the audiologist and pretend like nothing's wrong. The second thing you can do is to question our integrity, which is what we hold closest to our own hearts. You can call me a bad audiologist. You can call me a bad business person. You can say my clothes don't match, or I don't wear enough makeup, or whatever, but don't ever question my integrity and the way that I behave with my clients. And if so, I will refuse care to you. So I think that everybody should be able to set that expectation with any relationship in their life, especially working relationships.
Agreed. And on the subject of Audicles, we can't ignore I was going to say the elephant in the room, but I suppose the giraffe in the room. You guys, strangely, and it fascinated me to learn this story and get my head around it, but you guys have like a giraffe is embedded into everything. From visiting your office, a there's giraffes everywhere in your logo, in your marketing. Giraffes are a key thing. And I think that outdated you, the giraffe being part of the brand, correct?
For sure. Yeah.
So just give me the story of what that is, because I think this does lead to an interesting marketing lesson.
So yes, going back to the fact that this was a family-owned business for so many years, Carol Green was the owner of Audicles Hearing Services for a very long time. And Carol loved giraffes. And one day there was a health fair that was held at the zoo, and our office was handing out information. And on the information, it was included in an envelope. And on the envelope, there was a drawing of 2 giraffe necks making a heart. And our client saw that and thought it was super, super cute. Well, Carol had some giraffes in the office, and then our clients kind of picked up on that and started bringing giraffes. And then we had this huge collection of giraffes for absolutely no reason at all. And people were like, what's going on here? And at that point, our office manager at the time walked into a 5 and dime store downtown and saw a t-shirt with a giraffe on it. And the t-shirt said head and shoulders above the rest, and brought that back to the office. And we adopted that as our motto, part of our logo. So on our logo, you see our name with a giraffe on it, and it says head and shoulders above the rest since 1944. And over the years, we have amassed a kind of ridiculous collection of giraffes. People find the most interesting giraffes from all over the world, and you can find them in every corner of our office. We did move last year, and we were forced to cull down our herd a little bit. But one of the joys in that was we were able to give toy giraffes to a lot of our children, patients, and they really enjoyed that. But I guarantee anyone who's been in this office, once they leave and see a giraffe, they automatically think of us. It has nothing to do with hearing at all, or hearing aids, or anything having to do with ears, but it is something that sticks in people's minds.
Yeah, and I think that's it. Like, it's a real talk trigger. Like, anytime I see a giraffe now, even if it's in a gift store or on television, it's like, I just can't stop thinking about Audicles. It's so strange, and it makes sense that your patients had the same experience, which is why you were gifted giraffes like all of the time.
Yeah.
And you can really double down with that stuff. And if you live and breathe it like you guys have, then I think we've spoken about this. Like, what if every patient got a pair of giraffe themed socks? Or little touches like that kind of go, we know this is a bit wacky and weird, but it's our thing. And I think brands can have a lot of fun with that and let personality shine through, whilst maintaining the high levels of integrity and even the medical side of things, but really put the personality at the forefront.
Yeah. And, I think one thing, a lot of audiology offices all have the same logo. It looks like these sound waves coming out of an ear, or, a single sound wave. And that's great. And it's very classy. And I would even go so far as sometimes our logo can look like we're a pediatric office just because it's a giraffe for no reason. But I think a logo is supposed to automatically bring up a person in your mind. And like you said, now you can't look at a giraffe without thinking of me. So not that I look like a giraffe, but yeah, I think it's doing its job. And yeah.
Definitely. And it's these small things that make the big difference, especially when it comes to patient experience. So from your perspective, what are some of the things that you guys do that other clinics do not do, that you think has been, I suppose, key to being in San Antonio for 70 years?
So, again, I go back to the relationships we have with our clients, and the fact that we really do kind of think of them as our own little family members. And when they go through highs, we go through highs. When they go through lows, we go through lows, and we pay attention to those things. One of the things I learned years ago from Phil Jones is things like a little handwritten note go a huge, long way in a relationship. I had one client who I saw, wrote her a thank you note just for coming in. She had not made any purchase or anything. And she came back to me a week later and she goes, I am huge on thank you notes. And the fact that you sent me a handwritten thank you note is why I'm sitting back in your office today. I feel like we have formed a relationship and I want to work with you. And just going out of your way to let this person know that they're valued. And, we really appreciate the fact that you walked in our doors. And we pay attention to things like weddings and anniversaries and birthdays. Those clients that we've been with for so long, we know when their birthday's coming up. And if they're a golfer, we'll just send them a little package of golf balls and say, hey, we're thinking of you. Thanks so much for thinking of us so many times over the past several years. Jane has a really great gift that she sends out for wedding anniversaries. It's a plant, but it's bamboo in the shape of hearts. And people are so shocked and surprised to get that in the mail from their hearing aid office. They're thinking, why the heck is Audicles thinking of me right now? Well, because we care. We're having an anniversary. We get excited about it. We know you're excited about your anniversary. Let us help you celebrate that. And those are the things that I think part of it is we have been in business for so long and we kind of have the luxury of knowing those things about our people, but just sitting down and listening most of the time will change your relationship with anyone you work with. And they love when you pay attention. I go see my doctor and a lot of times she's like, where do you work again? Or tell me what's going on in your life. She doesn't remember me from anybody else, but that is never the way I want someone to think of my office. I want them to recognize me on the street and I want to recognize them on the street, which by the way has become significantly much more difficult with the use of masks. But we just, I'm not sure how to describe what makes it tick, but it's really part of our fiber.
And that's explained by the fact that you guys have so many patient referrals.
Mm-hmm.
I think that from the data that you shared with me, it's around 80% of patients, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I'd love to understand, and I think this will be helpful for the listeners also, the real process of how you drive so many patient referrals. I think I'll leave it at that and see what you come back with, and then possibly throw some questions your way.
So I think we started our patient referral program, I want to say about 15 years ago. And it was really a simple concept. We had business cards printed out, and the business cards say, this card entitles you to a complimentary consultation. And it says referred by with a blank line. And we would write in our client's name and hand them 3 cards and say, if you know anyone who could benefit from our services, please send them our way. This is how we grow our business and take care of people just like you. And it at first was very awkward, I think, to ask for referrals. So one of the things we started doing was when we sent them a thank you card, we would tuck some referral cards into it and just say, again, if there's someone you know who can benefit from our services, please share this card with them and they'll benefit by getting a no-cost evaluation. And it just kind of grew and grew and grew over the years. And then every time we sent a newsletter out, we would put 2 copies of that little business card at the bottom saying, remember, this is how we grow our business. Thank you for your help over the years. And people would keep those things in their purses for years. And all of a sudden they would run into somebody who mentioned they had some difficulty and they would whip that out. You can't go anywhere else but Audicles. And that's really how it all started and how it grew. We do have cards on our desks now and at the front desk, and we try to make a very concerted effort to hand everyone those cards, but they still go out in our thank you cards. They still are mentioned in all of our letters, things like that. And I think in our community, people understand that. We call ourselves the biggest small town in Texas. And this is just our culture that we started out as a pretty small country town, and over the past 20 years have kind of exploded. And thankfully, our people have taken advantage of that and handed out our cards to all of these other people. So yeah, 80% of our new clients who are coming in were referred by existing clients. And that is such a huge ego boost for us, really, as well as a huge driver of our business. Of course we do marketing. Of course we have a person who's going out to talk to physicians. Of course we do all of the things that everybody else does. But this one thing seems to have been the key to helping us grow and succeed. And hopefully it continues to.
It's the best piece of marketing you can do. It's a low cost, highly effective way. And as you said, if you actually do a return on investment calculation on how much it costs you to print some cards compared to the outcome, it'd be unlike anything else you could ever do.
Absolutely.
So when you hand these cards out to patients, like, what do you say? How do you introduce these to a new patient?
Well, I think there's a couple of ways. There are always going to be people who come in our office and maybe don't have a hearing loss or aren't ready to jump into hearing aids. Well, one of the things I say to them is, well, I'm really glad that you got started by coming here today just to check things out. And one of the ways that our business grows is by putting the word out to people around you that if you feel like you're having some difficulty, you need to get it checked out. Here are some cards. I'd really love it if you could share these with people in your life who are experiencing some difficulty and, send them in, see if I can help them with anything. The other way is after a person has come in and become a patient, purchased hearing aids, we've got them fit comfortably, they're happy. That moment that they're telling us, gosh, I'm really glad I did this. I'm so excited to be able to hear better. That's when you hand them the cards and say, I'm really excited for you too. And can you imagine how fun it is for me to do my job every day and help people hear better? Please, if there's anybody in your life that I can help anymore, give them these cards. This is how I grow my business. This is how we as a small business stay in business. And people want to help with that. Anytime that you receive good service, you want to kind of spread the word. I think that customer service has gone by the wayside in a lot of industries, especially in healthcare. And anything we can do for those clients and that makes them happy, we want to offer that to their friends and family as well. So people are excited to share that.
Amazing. And if somebody was to implement this campaign now from scratch, what would be some of the key lessons, given that where you're at and you've been doing this for 15 years of running this campaign? What would your advice be to them?
Be unabashedly proud of your services and of your office. Don't think for 1 second that you're being pushy by asking for a referral. Know that if you're doing everything you can for that client and they know that, they want to share that with everyone around them, just the way you would want to share things with people in your life. It's really a very awkward thing to start asking people, hey, if you're really happy with my services, send somebody else my way. It feels kind of cheesy and it feels a little salesy at first. And audiologists as a whole are not driven to be salespeople. So I think you have to take that out of your mind. It's not about selling something. It's about helping someone. And just know that if you're the best at what you're doing, those people appreciate it. Ask for it. How else are you going to grow your business?
Nice. And I've got 2 final questions for you, which I ask every guest. And the first one is, given everything you know now about, I suppose, running this business, growing this business, and being involved in this business, what advice would you give to 18-year-old Tracy?
Well, 18-year-old Tracy made a series of really good decisions in her life, I'd have to say, to get to where I am today. I think that's a really good question. I would tell myself, to just have faith in yourself. Don't second guess yourself so much, and give yourself the power to make really good choices. And eat the damn pie.
And final question. You guys clearly run a very successful clinic, and you must look out at the thousands of other clinics throughout the US. And what do you think are, let's say, one of the biggest mistakes that others make that is very clear for you to see?
The number one thing that I see people in our field do is speaking poorly of other people in our field. We're all in the same boat. We all have to make very difficult decisions. You have no idea what the root of many of the choices other people make are. I make a huge effort to never, ever badmouth another professional. And I think that it's incredibly tacky and self-serving for other offices to do so. And I think clients see that. You can always talk better about yourself without talking poorly about someone else. And that is absolutely the number one thing that I see bringing offices down all over the country.
Amazing. And before we bring this to an end and stop recording and start slagging off all your competitors, how can people learn more about you, Tracy?
So go to our website, Audicles, AUDICLES.com, designed by Orange and Gray. It's a fabulous website that tells you everything you need to know about our office and the services we provide and how we can help you moving forward in life.
Amazing. Appreciate your time. And yes, thanks so much for agreeing to do this and being so honest with us.
Well, thank you.
And there we have it. That is a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to the Business of Hearing podcast. Make sure you subscribe to be the first to know when a new episode goes live. If you're feeling kind enough to share your experience and leave us a 5-star review, it would mean the world to us. And if you want to learn more, then go to www.orange-gray.com for article guides and trainings specifically written for high-performing hearing care businesses. We look forward to speaking to you again soon.